There we go. Good morning, family, and happy new moon rising. Tonight is the Capricorn new moon, which we move into Aquarius. So we're going to get new moon Capricorn and new moon Aquarius energy, which is really great. And my activations have been pretty quiet the last 2 days, so I know this is just a grounding energy for me. And this morning, I was watching a video on YouTube that I've actually watched before, but it popped up in my timeline because someone commented on it, so I gave it another watch and I wanted to share it with you. This morning, I'm sound tuning on the TV. I have 852 hertz sound tuning, stimulating my brain, which aligns with what I want to talk about today, which are 7 brain hacks. And the video I was watching today is called Flex Your Cortex, 7 Secrets to Turbocharge Your Brain, and it's by TedX Talks. And so I jotted down these 7 things and I made some notes for myself, and I wanted to share them with you because, you know, one of the things that I've been activated to is brain health and activation and stimulation. And I talk a lot about how if we just focus on healing our brain over anything else, everything else falls in line. It's pretty amazing. So the first secret to turbocharging the brain is single tasks. So I've always been able to multitask really well. I can juggle a lot of things. I worked in the restaurant business for 20 years, managing restaurants and leading people. And so, you know, multitasking is something that I can do really well. However, I understand that not everyone can, and I understand that at times I can't either. So what it talks about as simple tasking is that it talks about how the smartest engine in the brain is the frontal lobe. And multitasking hijacks the frontal lobe, and it can actually degrade the brain system, lowering mental function and increasing stress hormones, which I found to be pretty interesting. So for me, if I'm feeling frustrated when I'm doing certain tasks or I'm trying to think of something, it really does help to clear the space, to eliminate all of that and just focus on one thing to ground it. So I totally get what it's saying. And for me, like so many of you, when we have such big creative brains with such a channel that's so open and it's flowing in all the time, it can become very difficult. And so the second thing that it talks about brain hacks is inhibit information. She said in the video that we have 200 times more information available to us than we did 20 years ago, which is a lot. And since most of us spend a lot of our time online all day researching and sharing and, you know, gaining knowledge and activating wisdom, it can get very overwhelming, especially when we're dealing with matters of our health and our minds and our psyche. There's so much information out there, and really narrowing it down, deciding on one course of action at a time really does make sense. It helps us to eliminate the enormity of what we see everyone else doing so that we can simplify. That's why, like for me, for my program, when it talks about inhibiting information, it's a balance of learning what to take in and what to block. And really what she's trying to talk about is energy. Like, and that comes into play with dealing with other humans too. Like, we have to decide how much information we want to absorb in our minds, in our brains, because we only have so much energy to give. Detox distractions. Okay, so whenever she was talking about this one, she was talking about technology. And I agree with what she said in the video 100%, that it's not technology that's a bad thing. It's humans' mismanagement of their time and energy with technology. Because I've gone through the spectrums of being online all day and being so distracted with that phone over the course of the last 2 years with all of this activating stuff going on, that I really learned a good balance with it. And I don't get hard on myself about it. I mean, if I feel like the flow is good for me, but the outside world is trying to tell me how maybe I'm doing too much, everybody has their own opinion. So go with what feels good for you. The fourth thing that she talked about is big idea thinking. Now, this, number 4, I really love. And big idea thinking is that big creative flow. Like if you have all these amazing ideas that are coming in and it just feels like, and it's so overwhelming, that's a good overwhelming thing. Just have to balance it. If you're sitting around all day and you don't have a hobby and you don't know what to do with yourself and you don't know where to put your energy, maybe there's missing the creative flow. Got to tap into the creative flow. And there's some big advantages to big thinking. It's premium fuel for the brain. It gives us higher level thinking. When we think big, that gives us a higher frequency of attraction, of manifesting. If you think about it, if we're sitting around thinking about things, how they're not good, if we're always worrying, if, we're creating scenarios that aren't real, that hasn't happened yet, that's all from subconscious mind programming. We have to eliminate that way of thinking and use it as a tool. It doesn't mean we stop worrying. It doesn't mean we stop thinking. It just means that those things become a tool to get quiet and listen. So it talks about, so big idea thinking, it makes for a better memory process. It makes for better thinking, and it makes learning more robust. Meaning it gets us excited about it too, I mean, it's a natural neuron charge. And also, which was way cool, is that big idea thinking increases blood flow by 8 to 12% in the brain. That's one of those wow moments, just sitting around, allowing yourself to be excited to think about big things increases the blood flow in your brain. And not only that, the cool thing is that it's a 30% increase in dopamine. That's pretty great. It's a 30% increase in neuroconnection. The neurotransmitters are firing off heavier amounts of hormones and all of those things that make us feel good. So why would we not want to raise the frequency of our thoughts to align with the visions that we see with ourselves? It's when the human doesn't do that when we struggle. And usually it's always outside influences that causes us not to align with our channel. Okay, number 5. It says calibrate your mental effort. Now, this is one I talk about a lot, and it's energy conservation. When we wake up in the morning, so at night we go to sleep. We feel tired because of the melatonin that is released from the pineal gland that's built up all day long. So, when we wake up in the morning, that melatonin has worn itself off. That's why we wake up. And our energy is the highest in the first couple of hours of the day. So what we do in those first 2 hours of the day sets the frequency for at least half of the day. Being mindful of the energy we have to give to others allows us to choose how to give it. So it says that, so we spend so much time thinking and listening to things that don't raise the brain frequency. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie Idiocracy, but I highly recommend watching it. And I think it's free. Someone's uploaded it on YouTube that I've seen. And that's what it talks about. And it's interesting that movie was made so long ago, and we're exactly in that same spot now. So much TV watching, so much fueling the brain with foods that are not real. Well, if we're not feeding our brain, then what do we become? So the sixth thing it talks about is innovate. Creating thoughts so that the brain fires on all cylinders. And we do that by adding love into our life, being intimate and romantic with ourselves. Then in turn, we're able to invite that same love and romance frequency from other people. We have to be innovative in our brains. Just like, if you're an inventor or a writer or, a producer or whatever it is that you're doing in your life, you are innovative in creating your thoughts to fuel the outside world. We must do that for the inside of our minds also. Number 7 is motivate. Okay, so this is the biggest one, and this is something that I am relearning myself. And one of the things that she said in the video is that motivation always trumps talent. And I spoke with someone on the phone the other day, William. Thank you so much for that amazing mentor conversation we had. And this took me back to that conversation where if you don't have drive and passion and all of those things, then your talents are wasteless. You're wasting your talents if you're not motivated. You got to have that passion, and we don't realize that, sure, it allows us to get things done on the outside world, but all of that thinking literally heals the human body, the brain, and aligns the psyche. Okay, and then she also talks about how motivation injects the most powerful, it provokes the most powerful neurotransmitter that we have in the brain, which is dopamine. And it says that dopamine in the right balance makes us happier and increases the speed of learning. And so when we motivate ourselves, we actually increase the dopamine levels, the neurotransmitters in the brain and the body, to learn at a higher, more rapid rate. It all boils down to brain stimulation. Oh. It all boils down to brain stimulation. If you make your life about stimulating your brain, you will heal all aspects. And so if you're having some emotional turmoil, if you are struggling paying your bills, if you don't know what you're doing in your life, put all that to the side. It's still there. It's still there, but just focus on your brain. Focus on healing your thought processes, because that's what I do every day. Every day is a day of transcendence. There's new people, there's new things, there's new thoughts, because we're so influenced by the outside world that we just have to learn to maintain the meditative state of mind. Meditation is not just sitting like this. It's sitting all the time in any situation and having that nice frequency that feels good to the soul. Everyone has their own frequency. Everyone has their own program. But as a collective, we're influencing one another, and we have to take that seriously. I love you to the moon, family. Have a great day.